What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, back with another Week 12 college football preview. And we have an extremely important and interesting SEC matchup this weekend going down in Tuscaloosa as we have the number 21 Arkansas Razorbacks traveling to Bryant Denny Stadium to take on the number 2 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. And right now, the Crimson Tide are a 3 touchdown favorite at 21 points. And also, this game will kick off at 2:30 p.m. Central Time live on CBS. So this weekend's important for multiple reasons. One, the Crimson Tide can clinch the SEC West with a win this weekend and also pad their resume with another top 25 win. Now, the Razorbacks, on the other hand, are looking to pull off a giant upset and also could navigate their way up to as high as third place in a wild, competitive SEC West that is just full of chaos right now once you get below Ole Miss and Alabama. So, everything's on the line for both of these teams, and also Arkansas it has a realistic shot to really improve their bowl game standing with an upset win this weekend. Now, other than that, man, let's break down these two teams. Let's set the table before we get into breaking down this game. The Crimson Tide enter at 9-1, 5-1 in the SEC, find themselves second in the latest college football playoff poll, and they're looking to extend their win streak this season to 5 games since that upset loss to Texas A&M at Kyle Field. And they're also looking to, like I said, clinch another SEC West title under Nick Saban and set up one of the most anticipated games of the year, number 1 Georgia versus number 2 Alabama in the SEC championship game in Mercedes-Benz in just a few weeks. So that's what Alabama's going to be thinking about coming into this one. Now the Razorbacks enter at 7-3, 3-3 in the SEC, and are also looking to extend their win streak to 4 straight games after their losing streak in the middle of the season, where they dropped games to Ole Miss, they dropped games to Auburn and Georgia on the road. Now, this could be their second top 20 win in 3 weeks and a huge upset in Bryant Denny. And like I said, they have the potential to jump as high as third in the West and also have the potential to set themselves up for a huge bowl matchup later this season if they can get this win and potentially get themselves to 9 wins and have a chance at 10 in the bowl season. Now, this series was first played all the way back in 1962, but did not become a yearly game until 92 when Arkansas officially joined the SEC. But the Crimson Tide lead the overall series 21-8, and they are in the midst of a 13-game win streak over the Razorbacks, with the last win coming in 2006, and their last win in Bryant Denny coming all the way back in 2003. So there's a long history of Alabama dominance in this game, and Arkansas is looking to turn the page under Sam Pittman this weekend. Now, for this game, let's get to the keys of the game and the matchups. The key for the Crimson Tide for me, we'll start with them, should be obvious if you watch this offense at all this season. And it starts with the dynamic arm of Bryce Young and this explosive wide receiving core that leads the passing attack for the Crimson Tide. This has been the face of the offense, and they've really lacked depth at running back due to some injuries and some youth after losing Najee Harris. But I expect the Crimson Tide to really put the ball in the hands of their Heisman candidate quarterback, tell him to go win this game. You know, when you look at their passing attack, it ranks second in the SEC, over 320 yards per game. And that's played a large role for the Crimson Tide having the number 3 scoring offense in the country at over 44 points per game this season. And this is going to be a huge test. This Arkansas secondary is allowing less than 200 yards per game through the air. So Bryce Young could have a huge moment this weekend in a ranked matchup that could be one of his Heisman defining moments later in the season. Now, when you look at Young, man, his first year as a starting quarterback has completed over 71% of his passes, over 3,000 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, only 3 picks, and 2 rushing touchdowns. When you look at where he ranks, second in the SEC in passing yards, completion percentage, and QBR, leads the SEC in touchdown passes, and is third in yards per attempt. Top 3 in every major statistical category and some of the top in the country right now. Bryce Young has lived up to every bit of the hype at quarterback at Alabama and even more. And when you look at how impressive he's been, you could say he's even been arguably the most impressive quarterback in the country at times. He's shown the ability to attack all levels of the field with his arm, and he's been extremely efficient in almost every game he's played. And he's extremely efficient no matter what the passing concept is that Bill O'Brien wants to throw at him. And also, let's not discount, and we'll get into them in just a second, how explosive the wide receivers have been. Young hasn't been asked to do anything, out of pocket or out of character. They want him to protect the ball and be efficient in distributing to the playmakers on the outside because a Jamison Williams, a John Mechie, they have the ability to turn just a 3, 4, 5 yard pass into six in a heartbeat, especially Jamison Williams, who arguably, in my opinion, maybe him and Wandale Robinson have a great argument. Those are the two most explosive players in space in college football, I would say. So you've got to give them a little bit of credit, but you also have to credit Bryce Young's accuracy, efficiency, and how he just puts the ball on a dime right on his wide receiver's chest so they have the ability to go make a play. It really gets overlooked in his game, in my opinion. When you look at just his short game, the 0 to 9 yard passes, he's completed over 80% of them for almost 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, one turnover, 56 first downs generated, and above an 83 PFF passing grade. And when you extend that to intermediate 10 to 19 yards, he's still completing over 63% of those passes, over 1,000 yards, seven touchdowns, no picks, and has a 95.6 PFF passing grade, one of the highest in the country for those intermediate concepts. Bryce Young is playing way above what his age and experience would suggest he should be. Bryce Young has an extremely bright future, and he's going to be an X factor for this offense. And for him, playing like this, that's why he's the key for this weekend. Now, the wide receiving core deserves a lot of credit. They've consistently been one of the top in the country over the past few seasons. You've seen the plethora of first round picks coming out of Tuscaloosa. But this year, the depth has really shrunk due to some youth and injuries. But also, the two headed monster that is John Mechie and Jamison Williams is probably one of the best duos in the country. Now, when you look at Mechie, he's got the experience and he's just like your every down type of guy. 67 catches, over 700 yards, 10.8 yards per catch, six touchdowns, top 10 in yards in the SEC, top five in receptions, and top five in receiving touchdowns. But I want to focus on a player, and he's become, y'all see the Auburn jerseys in the background, but on this podcast, no bias can be found here. Jamison Williams is one of my favorite players just to watch as a college football analyst, man. He is so electric. And I mean, he is the definition, if you look up lightning in a bottle, what it could be at wide receiver. I mean, at kick return, no matter if he catches a slant, under a drag route, a corner, like it doesn't matter. Jamison Williams can turn anything into 6 points if you don't contain him at open space. Only 51 catches, but he has over 1,000 yards already. He's averaging over 20 yards per catch for the season and 10 receiving touchdowns right now for Williams. He leads the SEC in yards, receiving touchdowns, yards per catch, and is top five in receptions. For me, Jamison Williams has a great opportunity to potentially make a run for the Bolitnikoff Award. And for me, when he decides to leave Alabama for the NFL draft, I think he deserves a first round grade. And right now, he has a great argument up there with Drake London, Traylon Burks, which we're going to talk about in a second. Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. I think Jamison Williams could be the next great thing at wide receiver coming out of Alabama. And I think really and truly he has been arguably one of the most impactful transfers in the SEC this offseason. Now, let's not also underestimate the tight end spot. Jaleel Billingsley has missed some time due to some things with Coach Saban, a few nicks and injuries everywhere around there. But Cameron Latu at tight end has been absolutely a giant part of this offense. Over 200 yards receiving, six receiving touchdowns, which is top five in the SEC. Cameron Latu is going to be someone to watch in the red zone, especially for Alabama. And I'm very interested to see how he fits and how Arkansas schemes for him with their experienced safeties, with the Jalen Catalon, a bumper pull, a Morgan at the linebacker spot. All these guys are going to be responsible for Latu coming at that tight end spot. I want to see how Bama schemes that. I also want to see how Arkansas, handles him because he's a problem in the red zone, and you've seen what he can do taking over some games this year. Now, those are the keys for Alabama. For Arkansas, though, it's going to be the exact opposite of everything I just talked about with Alabama. The identity of this offense lies in the rushing attack and the physical offensive line that the Razorbacks are going to bring into Bryant Denny this weekend. It sets up the rest of their offense with the passing attack and also allows KJ Jefferson to be a playmaker. So I expect this Razorbacks offense to pound the football against this Alabama front seven that is allowing less than 85 yards per game and less than 3 yards per carry. This is a giant test for this Razorbacks rushing attack. When you look at Arkansas, they're averaging over 234 yards per game on the ground. That's second in the SEC and averaging over 5 yards per carry for the season. They use a three-headed monster, a three-man rotation at running back, and they're just going to try to keep fresh bodies on the field and wear down this Alabama front that is experiencing some injuries right now. So the depth might not be as deep as it was week one coming into the season. And then on top of that, you have to be aware of what KJ Jefferson can do outside the pocket. He can be explosive and a game changer as well. But it all starts with Traylon Smith, man. Over 500 yards rushing, 5 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. That's top 10 in the SEC in rushing touchdowns. Raheem Sanders, 460 yards, over 5 yards per carry, and a rushing touchdown. But Dominique Johnson is going to be the guy that has really been leaned on in the red zone and to find the end zone, man. Over 450 rushing, 6.5 yards per carry, and 6 rushing touchdowns. He's number 6 in the SEC in yards per carry and tied 7th for rushing touchdowns this season. So you have to look and see how these running backs are rotated. I would expect Smith to get the first carry, and then throughout the game they're going to rotate fresh bodies to really put a lot of pressure on Alabama to see what type to test their depth. If you're Arkansas, you have to control the pace of the game. If you're giving Alabama extra possessions and you're allowing your defense to be out there for an extended amount of time, Arkansas is going to be in trouble. Keep the ball in your court. Keep Bryce Young, Jamison Williams, that explosive offense on the sidelines, and turn this game into an Arkansas type game rather than making it a shootout type game like Alabama would like it to be. Keep the pressure on Alabama. Don't let them flip the script on you because it's already going to be in their stadium. They're going to be the favorites. If you let them jump out to a big lead, Arkansas is in trouble. Now, Jefferson's the X factor too. Over 470 yards rushing, 5 rushing touchdowns. That's top 10 in the SEC. And the Razorbacks do a nice job of being able to run effectively in multiple areas of their attack. They have to do this to put pressure on this Alabama front seven, challenge the linebackers to make plays in the open field, and keep Nick Saban and this defense off balance. They do a great job running up the middle, over 6 yards per carry, 37 first downs, and over 20 explosive runs of 10 or more yards through the two A gaps this season. But they can also do it outside, over 700 yards rushing on the outsides off the edge, over 5.5 yards per carry, 40 first downs, and almost 40 explosive runs of 10 or more yards off the edge as well. You have to challenge these Alabama linebackers, the edge rushers to set the edge and contain this rushing attack. If you can get outside and make some explosive plays happen, that's how you can compete. That's how LSU was able to stay in the game, is to create explosive plays and turn it into their type of game. And Arkansas is going to have to try to replicate that this weekend. Now, the other key where I was going with it is KJ Jefferson's playmaking ability. This Alabama front seven is extremely talented. We're going to get into that in a second. But Jefferson is going to have to make some plays down the field and create some plays when things break down in the pocket. When Alabama's edge rushers get through, or defensive lineman or linebacker or whatever type of blitz Saban brings, when the pocket collapses, Jefferson can't take a 10, 15-yard loss, 8-yard loss. He's got to escape the pocket and make something happen, get rid of the ball, live to see another day, or turn it into something positive for the Razorbacks. He's done a great job passing this year, almost 2,000 yards, over 65% completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 3 picks, and 5 rushing touchdowns. But his scrambling has been explosive. Oh, he's averaging over 7.5 yards per scramble, 3 touchdowns off a QB scramble, 9 first downs, and 5 explosive plays generated this season. KJ Jefferson, when things break down, has been able to make things happen for Arkansas, and it's been a huge key to their success. He's going to have to do that again this weekend against the Crimson Tide defense, which is way easier said than done. Henry Toto at the linebacker spot, Christian Harris. These guys are going to that's going to be one of the other matchups to watch. Now, the other X factor is Traylon Burks at the wide receiver spot. If he can get loose in the secondary, that could serve a problem for Alabama. They cannot allow Arkansas to hit those explosive pass plays because that's when their offense really opens up. When they played Georgia, that's what Georgia did a nice job of, is limiting the explosive plays and keeping Jefferson contained in the pocket. If Alabama and Nick Saban's defense can replicate that, the Razorbacks going to be in serious trouble. But Burks is a problem. Over 800 yards receiving, over 16 yards per catch, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Traylon Burks is going to be another X factor in the passing game for the Razorbacks. So those are the keys for both teams, man. Let's get to this matchup to watch quickly, and that way we can get to the prediction. The matchup to watch for me is the Arkansas offensive line against this Alabama defensive line. The O line is going to have to win this battle if you're Arkansas. This is a key battle for Arkansas to win this game. The Razorbacks have to win this to establish the rushing attack, keep Jefferson clean against an extremely dangerous defensive line for Alabama that's going to get after the quarterback. When you look at the offensive line for Arkansas, they've performed extremely well. They were a large part in why this team's averaging over 230 on the ground. They ranked seventh in the SEC in sacks allowed with 19 this season. But man, the tackle spot is going to be crucial because edge rusher is where Alabama is very, very strong this season. Myron Cunningham and Dalton Wagner are going to have to play big. Listen, they got the size. Cunningham 6'6", 325, and Wagner 6'9", 330. You talking about some mountains of they got the size. I mean, that's terrifyingly big at the offensive tackle spot. But they're going to have giant performances against some of the best edge rushers that they've seen all season long. They're going to have to protect the edge. And if they can do that and allow Jefferson to sit in the pocket, step up in the pocket, and make some throws, that's going to be huge for Arkansas. You look at Cunningham, only 1 sack allowed this year, only 4 QB hits and 11 total pressures, while Wagner's even had a better year, only 1 sack allowed, 1 QB hit, and 6 total pressures. The O-line is going to have to slow the pass rush because Jefferson's ability to hit a Traylon Burks deep down the field really opens up the run game for them. And that's going to be a part of this offense where if it's clicking at full capacity, Arkansas can win this game. So the offensive line is going to have to play a huge role this weekend in helping Arkansas live to see another down sometimes. Get a third and long, get a third and short sometimes. You've got to win the line of scrimmage, especially in the red zone too. You can't settle for field goals against this offense. You're going to have to put touchdowns on the board. So for me, that's something that they didn't do well when they went to Athens to face Georgia. I want to see how they respond this weekend against this Alabama D line. Now, the Alabama defense, man, tied second in the SEC in sacks this season, currently tied with Georgia. 34 sacks this season, only like one behind Ole Miss for the season. And they're one of the top teams in the SEC with over 75 tackles for loss this season. So the D line has already shown they have the ability to disrupt an offense in the backfield consistently and often. Now, everyone knows his name. Arguably the best defensive player in the country right now. Will Anderson is the X factor in this matchup. If Arkansas can't slow down Will Anderson, it's gonna be a tough game to win. Will Anderson has the type of talent to wreck an entire game plan. He is a legit game changer off the edge. 11 sacks this season, 19 tackles for loss, and 58 total tackles. Will Anderson can make or break Arkansas's chances this weekend. Myron Cunningham and Wagner have to control Will Anderson. You cannot let him get loose. Make one of these other defensive linemen or defensive players beat you. You cannot let Will Anderson wreck shop. If that happens, Arkansas has no chance in this game. Will Anderson has that type of impact, and I think right now he has a great argument to be one of the best edge guys in college football right now. And some people have said he even should be in the Heisman conversation right now because of how impactful he's been. I mean, he's having a Ndamukong Suh Chase Young type of year on the defensive line. Now, Fedarian Mathis also huge on the interior. He's going to be big in the run aspect. He also has 4 sacks, 31 total tackles. Dallas Turner and Byron Young, they lost some depth at the edge rusher, but Turner and Young are two young guys who have really stepped up in the absence, combined 5 sacks, almost 10 tackles for loss. All these guys have to step up because you have to game plan for Will Anderson. He is that type of impactful type player. All Alabama has to do, contain Jefferson in the pocket and just make them feel uncomfortable. If you can make Arkansas one-dimensional, Georgia gave the blueprint on how to blow this team out. That's what Alabama's got to do, is just control the run, get after Jefferson, and do not let him get comfortable in the pocket. And that's how Alabama is going to escape with a big top 25 win. Now, for predictions, man, I know when people come to my channel, especially Alabama fans, are like, "Man, look at the Auburn jerseys in the background. We can't trust this guy." Listen, it's no bias here, man. Not at all. I'm getting me some other jerseys. That way everyone feels good around here on the Blue Bloods. But for me, man, as much as I've been an Arkansas fan this year, we've covered a lot of their games, and I'm really a big fan of Sam Pittman. I just don't see how Arkansas is going to be able to slow down this Alabama attack enough to win. And we saw how uncomfortable Jefferson got when he faced an Auburn D line, a Georgia D line. And I just think Will Anderson and these guys are too much right now. It is going to be interesting to see how the two offensive line injuries for Alabama with Javon Cohen and some of the other guys are going to affect Alabama on the offensive side of the ball. But for me, Jamison Williams is a lightning in a bottle. I think he has a big game. Bryce Young is going to be able to handle the moment. It's in Bryant Denny Stadium. I do think it could be close early. I just trust Alabama's offense to really pull away late. I have the Crimson Tide winning 41-20 over the Razorbacks this weekend in Bryant Denny. And for me right now, man, I have a tough time seeing Arkansas being able to hang in there, man. Because if this is a shootout, I just don't trust Arkansas to put up enough points on this Alabama defense right now. But I do think Sam Pittman and Arkansas are on the right track. It's just, man, Nick Saban, I think, had a wake-up call against LSU 2 weeks ago, and I think this Bama team's going to come in ready to play. So 41-20 win for the Crimson Tide this weekend over the Razorbacks, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Comment your thoughts on the game. Comment your score predictions. All that below. I really want to hear y'all's thoughts. Man, y'all can put a bunch of effort into it. I'll make sure to respond. I love to hear what y'all are thinking about these games. Also, man, make sure to tune into the rest of our previews this week and go check out at the end of the video. I'll link our playlist for all our Week 12 previews at the end. Make sure to go check the other ones out and let me know what y'all think about those games too. But for right now, man, on the Blue Bloods, we are out.